Hello, my name is Dr. Richard Bernardo. I am the editor-in-chief of the Scope Journal for Leadership and Instruction. I'm happy to have served this in my second year and will continue to take this as long as they let me continue to take this premise. Something I have enjoyed doing very, very much. I'm also a professor of educational leadership in a number of different places. And enough about me as such, because we're here to talk about Dr. Christina Cohn and a wonderful article that she submitted to us. Uh, I'll come to in a moment. But before I forget, I also want to say that I represent the SCOPE organization, the Suffolk County Organization for Professional Educators, led by Mr. George Duffy, who endorses everything that we do, and representing a very vigorous and active and involved editorial board, which Dr. Nunziata, by the way, is a member of. All right. So at any rate, that's what we do. You know, our purpose and my purpose, particularly in running this podcast today, is threefold. One would be to promote excellent research, and the article that Dr. Cohn has offered up, and which is printed in our fall 23 journal, certainly represents that. Most importantly, as I was just sharing with her, is I really want to try to promote exchange. You know, we're talking about new areas of exchange and interaction among educators and among people in general. Yes, I'm talking to some extent about social media, I suppose. But in the end, what we're trying to do is to promote positive exchange about ideas and to make them all come together and perhaps come up with some decisions for applications for other educators to take advantage of it, whether that be in the K-12 systems or in the higher education world. So yes, we want to encourage some exchange. And selfishly, I'm not sure if selfishly is the right adverb necessarily. I'm here to also use this forum to encourage more submissions, so that if someone's listening to the excellent presentations that we can expect from Dr. Cohn, we can be motivated to say, you know, I can write something too. Maybe somebody would like to know what I'm thinking about as well. And we work with prospective authors. We're happy to support their efforts and give them feedback as far as how they want to pass muster with my editorial board. And so I'm going to mention the title, and then I'm going to ask Dr. Cohn to tell us a little bit about herself, and then we'll get into some analysis of our article as such. Our article is entitled "An Analysis of If the Advanced Placement World History Modern Reading is Effective Teacher Professional Development." In my mind, there's several key words there. I hope that Dr. Cohn agrees with me, but it's okay if she doesn't. And that would be about the professional development piece, because that has deep meaning, especially for those of us who are born and bred in the K-12 systems as such, and even more so perhaps in the advanced placement world history premises. So with that said, I'm going to ask Dr. Cohn to introduce herself, give us some background, tell us what she cares about, and then we'll move along.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction. So yes, I'm Christina Cohn. I am currently a district social studies chairperson in the Belmore Merrick School District. And that involves working at a middle school and a high school. So it's a secondary district, a 7 through 12 district. Prior to my experiences here in Belmore Merrick, I worked in the Smithtown Central School District for 20 years as a social studies teacher and instructional specialist. And I primarily taught the AP World History class to 10th grade students. In addition, I currently consult for the College Board. So I spend my summers teaching teachers how to teach the AP World History course as an instructor of APSIs, AP Summer Institutes. And in addition, for many years now, I have served as a reader, or in layman's terms, a scorer of the AP World History exams. I've been a regular table scorer, as well as a table leader and an early table leader, which has given me a lot of insight into, the behind the scenes, what goes on there, and again, how this can possibly translate into improved instruction.
Okay, that sounds pretty impressive to me. And as I was telling you before we began, this premise of table scoring and of teachers interacting with each other and being developed by table leaders is something I guess we could say that it's been happening, I'm going to guess at least 20 years for now, maybe more, and has had I always felt has always been pretty effective. I'm not sure if it's totally effective. And I think some of those things kind of crop up in your conclusions, as a matter of fact. We'll come to that. But at any rate, tell us more about how you went about developing this article, its purpose, and its methodology, please.
Sure. So this was part and parcel of a larger study. It was my dissertation study through Long Island University, where I looked at not just if the AP reading is effective professional development, but also how does it impact teachers' perceptions of their ability to teach the course, and also how does it impact student test scores. So this is, as I said, part of a larger study. And really the impetus behind it came from the fact that, as I said, I taught the course for many years, and it wasn't until my 11th year teaching the course that I attended the AP World History reading. And some of that was because of administration that said, no, we don't want to approve schedule, attending during the end of the school year and have to get a substitute teacher and such. So when there was a change in administration and I asked again and was granted the ability to go, I will tell you, it really impacted my own teaching. So after doing this for years as a teacher, I wanted to know, well, is this just me? I mean, you hear other people who attend say this is the best professional development ever. But, as doctoral students, as researchers, we want more than just that anecdotal data. We want to know the how and the why. We want the evidence. So hence the reason for the study. And then, as I mentioned, in my role as a consultant for the College Board, and also, you mentioned before social media, there are these AP World Facebook pages of teachers chiming in with questions and such. It became very obvious to me that professional development is needed by many who teach the course. Some are just thrown into it. It's not a requirement that somebody who teaches AP World History attend an AP Summer Institute or attend the reading or whatnot. So in many districts, it's, July, August, when a teacher finds out, oh, I'm going to be teaching this course next year, and many do an amazing job and they work very hard. But if you don't have that formal training, it's, you're learning from others, potentially misinformation, as the course has changed many times and not everybody always stays up to date with it. So again, it was looking at, is this valid professional development? Does it meet the criteria, or is it just, look, is College Board getting a labor force to score these exams and kind of washing their hands of it, right? Which is it? So.
I never thought of it that way, but that's an interesting premise to consider as such. And the key term there is professional development, how professional development evolves for adults. I mean, I'm going to name drop for a minute, not that I know them, but I've certainly seen my share of dissertations that are grounded somehow or another in Malcolm Knowles and adult learning theory. And I think that this is a prime example of how that comes to bear. So your purpose of the study was
really to analyze if this is effective professional development. And as I said, if it, how it impacts teachers' perceived practices and beliefs, and how, or rather their perception, because I didn't have test score data to analyze. So it's really the perception of how it impacts student performance. And actually, yes, so I did use andragogy, adult learning theory, Knowles's theory, as the framework behind the study, as well as Dr. Desimone, Laura Desimone, has done numerous studies on what constitutes effective professional development. And so her framework also helped guide the study, kind of using her tools as a measurement device.
I also like the way you approached it. This is probably comes under the heading of a super nerd for those of you who are watching this, but here it comes anyway. Dr. Cohn used exploratory, I never remember which comes first. Exploratory, sequential exploratory approaches. You want to explain that to people who aren't familiar with that, please?
Yeah, and I wear that super nerd badge with pride, so thank you for that. And I have to give credit to Dr. Laura Seinfeld, who was on my advisory committee, who really pushed me to pursue a mixed method study. So this was the explanatory sequential design, where it began with a survey. I actually surveyed teachers of the AP World History course using that online Facebook site to recruit survey participants, and had them discuss the reading structure, answer comments about the reading structure and changes to their perceived practices and beliefs, as well as student scores. And then also asked if any would be interested in joining in a focus group, a follow-up focus group. And so I will tell you, one of the limitations, there's thousands of people on this Facebook group, and I only had 83 participants, which is not a shabby number by any means. I mean, that was enough to get really good data. But I was expecting more. And this is, for those who are doing research, this is a common problem that many are having. And I think, we're inundated with surveys and it's easy to ignore and move on. But I did receive, it was about 1/4 of the participants said yes, they'd be willing to participate in a focus group. But what was interesting, and I learned this through my studies at LIU, is I created a joint display to really decide who I wanted to follow through with inviting to the focus group. So first I analyzed that quantitative data to see, what more I needed to find out. And it was interesting, after the quantitative data, a couple of things that I really didn't anticipate came to light, that the number of years a participant has taught the course and then attended the reading seemed to make a difference in the results, and whether or not a participant held a leadership role at the reading. Like I mentioned before, I've served as a table leader and an early table leader. That also impacted the results. So it was really important for me that I emphasized diversity in selecting those 8 participants. And I made sure there was a mix of those who were, kind of 2 years into teaching the course, as opposed to in their 20th year teaching the course. Some who were table leaders, some who were not, to really get multiple perspectives. And then, of course, and here's where that super nerd badge comes back into play, because it's 2 studies. And well, one could argue it's 3, because you're doing the quantitative data, you're analyzing the quantitative data, you're conducting a focus group, and then you're creating your codes and your themes. You're transcribing the data, creating your codes and your themes and analyzing that. And then, of course, the really important piece, which I fear that in many studies is often overlooked, is that connecting element, right? How does one really help support the other? So there's really that third piece of the puzzle.
And we'll call that the third dimension. I think you're absolutely right about that. I'm going to oversimplify in a certain sense, and this, I don't remember where I heard this. It's not an original thought. Clearly the quantitative tells you the what people are perceiving, but it doesn't really tell you the why. And the why begins to emerge when you begin to work with a focus group to get the qualitative responses. But really, what happens is when you synthesize, how those 2 sets of data complement each other or don't complement each other. That's where the rubber meets the road, and that's the beauty of where we all take this. So, and you found nothing, right? You didn't find a thing. Nothing told you anything.
No, I found that it really is very effective professional development. That again, this is connecting to Des Amone's theories of what makes effective professional development, but that relevance piece is so key, right? It is their relevance to classroom practice. I mean, so many of us in education, no matter what level we're at, whether it's a brand new teacher or, a 30-year into this administrator, whenever we go to professional development, what we want those nuggets. We want something that we can then use, right, in our classrooms, in our work, whatever it might be. And what this study showed is that the participants really found that this was relevant to their day-to-day work. I remember one participant in fact saying, like, a light bulb went off her and she's like, this is where my kids are going wrong, right? And looking at the actual work of other students, not just those in your own classroom, but nationally, the pool of students and what they're submitting really helps us see, like, I don't know who this teacher was, but they seem to be structuring, having the students structure their essay writing in this way. And it's these kids are getting the points, right? So it was definitely really relevant. And another real kind of strong point was the collaborative nature of the reading. You're at the table, you have, the College Board frames it as your shoulder partners, right? Who's right next to you? And if you're having trouble, you can turn to your shoulder partner like, hey, would you accept this? Do you think this meets the criteria? And being able to talk that through. That collaborative nature really helped teachers and even beyond the reading, because it was networking also, right? Those connections are made. And then, you're following up with these people months, years down the line going, I'm about ready to teach something in Unit 5 and I'm struggling. Do you have a good reading for this or whatnot? And it's just that network of support that gets built as a result of attending the reading. I could go on. There were just so many elements.
Go on. If there's something else that works for you, tell us about it.
And again, the content piece was part of this as well, right? It wasn't as strong as the collaborative nature, or the relevance to classroom practice, but there's certainly an element of learning content as well. Hey, the textbook that I use never went into this, but now I'm learning from others. And again, just kind of building your repertoire as an educator. So there were so many benefits to attending the reading.
Well, let me put some words in your mouth and take them out again. I probably won't miss a few, and I don't have them in any particular order. I'm just thinking out loud. So I'm hearing a community.
Mhm.
I'm hearing a dynamism. Is that the word? Yeah, a dynamic. Is probably a better way to say that. A dynamic that evolves among that community of people sitting around that table.
Mhm.
That I'm not sure what it is. You can comment to I'm not sure if that's organic or inorganic.
Mhm.
Which do you think?
So I think it's organic because it even transcends beyond the table, right? When you're at the breaks, when you're at lunch, when you're at evening sessions, it continues. And in fact, some of the participants, I recall in the focus group, some of the participants were saying, I learned more at lunch, sitting at a table at lunch, and we're just having conversations.
Yeah, that's really gratifying to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
In a certain sense, now again, I'm thinking out loud, Christina. In a certain sense, the table leader, I hate this word.
Okay, I found this on the web for Hey Certain Sense the Table Leader. Check it out.
I don't know where that came from. We have to lose it. In a certain sense, the table leader, I don't like the word I'm going to use, but it's the one everyone will use. As facilitator. Something about that word that turns me off, but I'm not sure why. The table leader as facilitator has to know when to grab the moment to promote that organic energy, and that calls for a certain skills of the table leader.
Yes, and in fact, the role of the table leader was probably the one that I had the most mixed results on.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell us about that
study. So, according to Desimone's research and others who have spent a lot of time researching effective professional development, a theme that does emerge is, the role of the facilitator, as you said. And there's definitely, and I think we can all attest to this, there's definitely a difference when you have, let's say, an outside company, if you will, right, leading educators in professional development, as opposed to what we would say is kind of one of our own, right? And so at the AP reading, those table leaders are teachers or college professors, which is representative of the makeup of the readers. So they're in the trenches with everybody else teaching the course. And because of that, some of the research showed that because of that, there's more of a respect and a connection that can be made between the readers and the leader. Now, the problem, the disconnect that did occur in following up with, why are these quantitative numbers, why is it showing me that the role of the leader is not as impactful as I really would have thought it would be? In those follow-up conversations that I was able to have with the focus group, some did express, well, it depends on the reader that you get. And unfortunately, egos can get in the way. And somebody who really doesn't have those leadership skills to connect as they should with others, can rub people the wrong way and could be problematic.
Unfair question. How would you train leaders, those table leaders, to be better leaders?
So
unfair question, I know.
No, it's one of the things I do like about the College Board, and with the reading, is that they do survey their readers each year at the end, and they ask them to provide feedback on their table leader. So one would hope that they are using that data to then look at their invites for the following year. And if, the majority of a table said, look, my leader really, was a bit arrogant or didn't connect with us, one would hope that person wouldn't be invited back as a table leader the following year.
Okay.
But I'm not sure.
So in other words, like if you and I were to get a piece of clay and somehow, build that the ideal facilitator to run this kind of process, that the two be continued to some extent.
Right.
And, that reminds me of, well, again, I'm stepping away from the AP premise for a minute, and that reminds me of all the other group grading things that we work or expect of teachers, literally from I guess about second or third grade upwards, in the ELA approaches, as I guess even in labs, I suppose. I don't know that. I'm just guessing. Science labs approaches where we were asking for teachers, peers, to work with each other to evolve something, and hopefully being, I'll use a strange verb, goaded, coaxed, supported. Here's my favorite word of all the words in the English language, and don't ask me to define it because I still haven't figured this out. Catalyzed, for folks to truly form an esprit de corps among themselves, to assure that everyone will have the best possible ways to be effective. If I had a magic wand, that would be something I would be doing some of my own research. Actually, I have, but I don't think I've found anything else any more than most other people have found at this point. I noticed that your opinion, your conclusions about the role of administrators was, I'll leave it at interesting. You can tell me what you think a good administrator can do to facilitate this thing again. Is that word again?
Yeah. So again, this is something that I think could use further evaluation. That, one of the questions that was asked of participants was, to seek their motivation to attend, and did they have that support? And it's not a problem, but just the inherent nature of the reading is that it happens in June. And so we're looking at teachers all across the country attending the reading. And for many, they're unless you're in New York, right, you're usually done by June. So you don't really need the support of administrators to attend because you're doing it on your own time. It's those of us who are on the East Coast where we need release from class time to attend. And hence, as I mentioned earlier, my former district for years did not support my attending. So again, the information on the role of administrators, I don't think I got a very good look. I think, if I wanted to do follow-up work, it would be asking the participants which state they're in, and then breaking it down. Okay, so is this somebody whose school's still in session for or not? Because that'll help determine. But in terms of the implications for the research, and in my role as a district social studies chairperson, I use this research as evidence to say we should be encouraging our AP teachers to attend the reading. Yes, it's an inconvenience that we have to hire subs, and sometimes it's during our regents grading, and then you're down a person. But again, the takeaways that the teachers can return to the district with, I think, make it a valuable experience, make it a worthwhile experience. So, in my own professional work here, I have quite a few teachers who have since applied to become readers, and I had one attend for the first time in my department last year for AP macroeconomics. And he came back, on fire with ideas to share with others. And that's what you want to see.
Yes, you do. I mean, but actually, I'll take this a step further and give you credit that you're not giving yourself. I think there's an Italian phrase called, I'll give you the English translation, the message behind the music. And the message behind the music is Dr. Cohn making the opportunity to participate in a unique experience, something that all too often is either given short shrift or lip service, but not necessarily played out as well as it should be played out. I always say, I think I've said this more than once in other podcasts. I feel like I have. The problem in general, I'm not talking to AP specifically at all, is the problem in general is that administrators, and I'm doing one of those blanket accusation things I get in trouble for. The problem is that administrators sometimes are just satisfied with checking off that they've trained a few people to do X, Y, and Z, whether it be grading AP exams or the ELA exam in the third grade, whenever they give it nowadays, or something in between. And what occurs then is you have that what I call the Lone Ranger, a professional development approach, which predates you. You're too young to remember the Lone Ranger, but those of us old enough to remember the show knows that when the Lone Ranger and Tonto cleaned up the town and got rid of the bad guys and got on the horses and rode out of town, someone would say, who was that masked man? And someone would say, well, he was the Lone Ranger, hi ho, and all that. But there's too much PD like that.
Right.
Sometimes the Lone Ranger has to be brought back because it wasn't sustained. It sounds like what you're talking about built a subsystem in there for sustainability.
Exactly, which is another one of Desimone's core concepts of effective professional development, that there has to be that sustained duration. Now what that duration is, nobody knows. There's different thoughts on that. But exactly as you said, these one-offs, attending a 1 hour PD online somewhere, is that really going to institute change? Probably not.
Probably not. No,
Yeah.
Probably not. In fact, I think I read, I don't remember the author of it, but I think I read a couple of places that professional development has to be on any one skill or competency has to be practiced 7 times before it becomes part of the DNA.
Right. And so, I'm glad you brought that up, because, something we didn't talk about earlier in terms of the elements of the reading that make it good professional development is just that engagement in practice also. And I failed to mention that earlier, that, the participants are not sitting passively being lectured at. They're doing, and they're doing repeatedly for 8 hours a day.
And still have the energy to bounce off each other and look for peer things. Again, I think it was Bethel Labs. Everybody cites this particular study. I mean, I forget what they call the pyramid, but essentially they show what kind of, they're talking about learning, not talking about professional development specifically, shows that peer-to-peer learning has a 90% retention rate over, I think, 3 months, something like that, where, the passive, I'm going to have to fight that phone off. The passive listening skill. I'm getting distracted by that phone call.
I can't hear it, so you're good.
We're good. That passive learning doesn't work for 5-year-olds and doesn't work for 35-year-olds either. Not really, unfortunately. And that calls more to task for administrators to uh, take the bully pulpit and to get behind spiritually and actually to make sure that all people get what they need, and then sometimes things that they don't know that they need, which is really the most important part. Is there any question that you would wish that I might have asked that I didn't ask?
So, the one thing that we didn't talk about is the fact that my study looked at attending the AP reading in person, like flying out to Salt Lake City or Kansas City or wherever this certain discipline is being held. But in the past number of years, even before COVID, the College Board started online reading. They call it distributed reading as well. And so my study specifically looked at attending attending the in-person reading. Yet the survey participants, had the option to add comments when they were done with my questions. And of course, the focus group was open-ended. And so many couldn't resist talking about the differences between attending in person and attending, participating in the reading online, which again, talk about possible future studies that just opens the door right away for someone else to please jump in and do that. But for somebody who's done both modalities since becoming an administrator, I can't leave at that time of year to go and attend in person anymore. So I still, even though I'm not in the classroom anymore, I still do the online reading because I don't want to lose touch. I want to know what they're looking for. I want to know the ins and outs, what's changed, so that I can support my teachers here and again, hopefully benefit all of our students. And I will tell you, there is a difference between attending online and attending in person in terms of the professional development aspects. And something that, again, I haven't done the research on. So this comes back to just my own editorializing that in person's better. However, going back to what we started at maybe a half hour or so ago, keeping in mind adult learning theory, right? Andragogy, not everybody can say, I'm going to leave my family for a week, right? We all have different commitments. And so if what you're able to do is attend online, it's better than not doing anything because you still learn from it.
Certainly makes sense.
Yeah.
But this is not a non-professor comment. Ain't that the truth, though? That there's such a difference between the in-person versus the online piece. With everybody's understanding that we went online because we had the gum between our eyes to do something about what we did, and it still hasn't been honed. I don't even know the answer to this, but maybe there's a way that we could make online more real, more interactive than it seems to be, at least in my own experiences as well.
Some people do it well, and I know that over the years the College Board has made improvements. They've actually encouraged the online tables, if you will, to Zoom from time to time to try to foster that sense of group mentality in a sense. Whereas the first year it was, oh no, we're not Zooming. It's just you're logging in, you're doing your work, you're logging out. So they've been making efforts, and I think that's the same with any online course. There are teachers, there are professors who do it really well, who can engage the participants and not just talk at them, but there is that shared learning that's going on. So it's evolving.
Yeah, it's a to be continued.
Right.
Well, this was delightful.
I enjoyed it as well.
I enjoyed your Ilana. I enjoyed, you're actually blushing a little bit. I went right through the screen. I enjoyed your investment. It was refreshing. And I think it's also expressed in a wonderful article, and I hope that you're going to do some more articles for us.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it.
Talk to me whenever you're ready to.
Talk to me. Yes.
Okay, back to my audience, just to understand, you see, this was such a, the article that Dr. Cohen wrote is a wonderful article, and she was reiterating some of those things, but you could see that how we were able to, press and squeeze and massage and rejoin or recombine, I guess is a better word, the ideas. And you can see how someone like Dr. Cohen rose to that and really, created some new ideas for herself and for other people too, for you to investigate. If you have a question for Dr. Cohn, send it to me. All right. My email address is is in the journal, but it'll also be on the show notes for this, and I'll pass it over to her. And we'd like to keep this going. We'll see if find a way we can make that all happen. And with that, I do thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you.